Alrighty, everyone, so let's go ahead and spend some time to take a look at today's sponsor, and it is no other than Taxbit. Now, many of you will recall, if you're recurring viewers to the Data Dash channel, that Taxbit has been a partner of ours as far back as 2018, and they've been continuously improving on their key goal of making taxes and cryptocurrencies as simple as possible. Over the last few months, they've not only launched Taxbit 2.0, which we can see here, a much better and clean, improved user experience, but along with that as well, they've continuously tried to make the process as simple as possible and provide all the necessary functions to make sure you can pay as little taxes as possible, but also make sure that you're declaring any gains that you've made, but also keeping in mind that you might have declared a loss, which can actually be a tax write-off in the future. So it's important, if you guys have been trading or investing, and I want to make this very clear, to pay your taxes, if anything, but that Taxbit can make the process as simple as possible. Now, we're going to be diving through the entire platform today. They were fortunate enough to create a demo account for us here that showcases what it looks like real time to actually have your exchanges plugged in. And one thing I want to share as well is that on Taxbit, they also offer something that you won't see on the screen because my webcam is in the bottom right, but I'll go ahead and display it on the screen. It's a leave a message box here where you can actually chat with team members from the Taxbit team. These are accountants, tax experts, all kinds of individuals who can actually help you in this case to help you get through any questions that you might have. But the platform itself is pretty self-explanatory. So again, I think for most people, you'll be able to go through the platform like a breeze. So let's go ahead and talk first and foremost about the dashboard. Once you've registered for an account at the link down below, you guys can actually go ahead and just start plugging in your exchanges on the platform, which we'll do in just a moment. But this is going to be the dashboard that you'll want to go to most of the time just to check on the total value of your portfolio, the current total 2020 gains and losses for the next coming year. For you guys, what's probably going to be relevant here over the next month is your 2019, in this case, your 2019 gain or losses. But right here, we're going to see our 2020 levels in this case. And we can currently see that I'm recurring in a loss of $361.43. This actually means that if I close out the next year, this is actually a taxable loss. And I should report this to the IRS because in this case, I'm going to be able to use it as a write-off for the next year in this case, where I basically cut out my obligations to a certain degree on this year, and then I can use the rest of the losses for the next coming year if I make gains. Along with that as well, we can see here my transactions, and this is just a full list of our transactions. We can actually look at the view all transactions tab, and this will take us to all of the transactions that we made. And we can also see my coins, which are the current cryptocurrencies that we hold here. We can see that I hold a current amount of Bitcoin and also Ether in the test account. Now, we can also dive into view all coins here. Now, this is going to showcase us not only what cryptocurrencies we own, but also the sources of where those coins are being held. And this is very important. You want to make sure that through Taxbit, you have all your exchanges plugged in. Taxbit cannot just know your name or know your basic information and be able to pull all your information. We're going to actually have to manually plug that in. And it's very simple. We actually just have to do it one time, and after that, it just simply updates on the Taxbit platform. It keeps pulling in the information. And this is through the use of API keys. And all we have to do is come up here to add transactions. You can already see here that we have Coinbase and Coinbase Pro added in. We'd simply go to add exchange, and we can go through the entire list of exchanges that Coinbase covers. They cover, what Taxbit covers. Taxbit covers a wide range of cryptocurrency exchanges. For example, we could do Binance, right? Binance is ones that many people are familiar with, as well as maybe, for example, Kraken, right? So we could plug in any of these exchanges. And what we have to do here is something that all exchanges offer, and it's plugging in what's known as an API key. So we basically have to plug in a secret key. This is what's going to prevent others from being able to view your transactions, and also the API key itself. Now, I want to make a few things very clear, guys. It's important to note that this does not give Taxbit the authority to trade your funds. Very, very important to get across, guys. Taxbit basically is getting what's known as an API view key. And this is what a lot of exchanges or platforms use to get a reading on your balance or to display it to you, or to be able to use it in this case to record your transactions and be able to generate a tax form. Taxbit's not sharing this with anyone. They're utilizing it to make sure they can get all of the data they need to get the proper tax forms for your tax obligations or your potential tax losses that you should report so that you can have less of a tax obligation overall. So very important to note, it's very simple though. You just have to go through your few exchanges. And once you've done that, year after year, Taxbit is going to be even more simple for you because it's going to update it real time as you do trades, and you'll be able to get your tax forms at the end of the year without having to plug it in again, right? You do it once, it's done, right? Unless you have other tax platforms that crypto platforms that you need to plug in. Very important to note that as well. All right, so let's go ahead here to our transactions page. Now the transactions page, again, is very simple. It's a list of our transactions here from our transfers to our times where we've bought or sold a given asset. And we can see here, for example, here's a Litecoin transaction that I did on IDEX in this case. You can see here that it's got over $63.48 of gains. Now, the really cool thing to take into note here is that we basically have an immutable audit trail in this case. The really cool thing about Taxbit is that if you plug in all of the information, you've got all the information at your fingertips, and it's immutable on the blockchain, which is really cool. When you come to an IRS audit in this case, or you're dealing with the IRS in this case, you can show a provable trail. And that's really what Taxbit is doing, a conglomerated audit trail where you can showcase all your cryptocurrency activity on the date that it happened and at the time that it exactly happened here. For example, at 7 p.m. on February 4th. And we can see here as well the gains here in this case, the cost basis of what we had on the underlying transaction, and then the sale price giving us a final return gain and our sales gain here of over $75.10. Now, what's cool here is if you need to find a specific transaction, Taxbit makes it pretty easy. You can sort by, for example, newest to oldest, so you can go all the way back to your first transactions. In this case, my first trade here was in November 10th of the year. We can see the newest transactions here in February. Now, this is going over multiple months, but we can also do other things. We could see all of our buy positions in this case. We could also see as well, if we want to cut that out, we could do sell, transfer, trade. We could also cut it by source. Maybe I want to see trades only on IDEX or on Coinbase Pro. We can also take a look here at different specific currencies. So did we do a trade, for example, in dollars, or maybe do we want to specifically focus in on trades for Bitcoin or Ethereum? And then also we can choose the date here, going back multiple years in the sense of the data that we might have, and then also over the last few months. So it gives us a huge amount of data at our fingertips and allows us to be able to find these transactions very, very quickly. So very, very cool stuff. And then outside of that as well, again, going back here to my coins, again, this is very important to go back to. If you ever want to see what your current holdings are, you can use Taxbit as a simple kind of portfolio manager and just seeing where you are right now. And then also you can see the sources. Now, in the sense of the My Taxes page, I would say that this is probably the second most important page outside of the dashboard after you've gotten everything plugged in, because this is going to be where you actually get your forms. And you also get a reading on very important tax liability statistics in this case. Now, let me explain that a little bit further. So we can already see our taxable gains and losses. Good news here, we've got a write-off in this case. We've got taxes that we can write off that we won't have to owe, and we can actually cut out of our overall tax obligation. In the United States, from my understanding, it's about $3,000 for the year. I might be wrong on that specifically, but it varies depending, I think, on different variables. And those variables are important to keep in mind here. When you generate your Taxbit account, you're going to be able to provide some key information, such as your tax jurisdiction, your marital status, and your estimated income for the year. And these factors are going to have an effect on your tax rate that you pay. It's very important to get these relatively right so you can make sure you're providing as reasonable and realistic information to the Taxbit platform so that you can know a proper amount of long-term gains, short-term gains, and the state tax rate that you'll owe on your given cryptocurrency trades and activity. Very important to keep that in mind. And in this case, you can see here, due to the demo account here, I don't live in California, but for the demo account, I live in the United States and California. I am married filing jointly with my spouse that I don't have, sadly. Well, hopefully one day. And then also along that is one estimated income of $65,000 in this case, right? So we have all of our information here. Again, you guys might not be able to see that. I'll go ahead and zoom in here so you guys can see it, right? These are the different statistics here. And in this case, we have our effective tax rates here. Now, this is showing us that in this case, we're taking a loss for the year. So it's very, very important for us to actually go ahead and file our report and send it off to the IRS. It's important always, either if you're taking a loss or a gain. But in this case, what we have is three different options here. we can download a CSV file in this case. And most exchange platforms offer the ability to download a CSV, but they're all separated, right? So if you have 12 different platforms, what's nice is Taxbit is going to give you an aggregated CSV file that you could plug into other famous accounting software, tax software, or you could aggregate into an already existing CSV file where you're maybe doing your own taxes through Excel. Along with that as well, they've got a PDF here, and this is an actual tax form that you can ship off and send to the IRS, or basically utilize to find your overall tax obligation through cryptocurrencies very simply, and you can print off or email. And along with that as well, for those of you who use TurboTax, I've used TurboTax before, it's a great platform, you can actually plug in a TurboTax CSV file in this case. And they basically have it where it's a simple input. In this case, it's very, very streamlined. So you have all these different options here that you can choose from depending on how you actually go about doing the process, right? So again, very, very simple here. Now, one thing that I want to emphasize again, I know there's the chat box here, guys, that you guys can utilize to communicate with a lot of different people. And for this case, it's only $40 extra to be able to get access to that customer support line, whereas a normal accountant, is going to charge you more than $40 an hour. So it's a pretty good deal in that case. It streamlines and democratizes the ability to really get help here for a lot of people. But one thing that's important to note, again, Taxbit makes it very simple. If you ever see a term like total value or total 2020 gains or losses, you can always click this little icon here, the information icon, and it's going to take you to a sidebar that is known as the Help Center. And this will give you a definition of certain values on the page that you're looking at. So again, you can scroll through here and it'll give you all the major terms here if you're ever curious about what something means. And again, if you register for one of the higher tiers here on Taxbit, you'll be able to get access to that blue chat box that'll allow you to get some extra additional help here. So if you're curious about what any of these packages incline and basically what they offer, you can see it right here as to what they offer here across the board here, depending on the different services. And on the Plus package, that's where you start getting access to the chat box, which I think will be valuable for a lot of people, especially as I know many people are currently getting IRS audits from Coinbase. A lot of people who just had a small position in the crypto space thought, again, I don't have to pay crypto taxes or whatever it may be. Well, you guys have to pay taxes, right? You have to at least report something. And it's very easy for the IRS to see something like that if you don't report it, right? Because they can know if you have an account with Coinbase, Coinbase is going to be reporting that. And that goes with a lot of other crypto exchanges. It's the law. You have to pay your tax obligations. And also declare your tax losses when you can, because if you don't declare them this year, you won't be able to declare them in the future. So you have to be streamlined and transparent with the IRS in this case. It just makes things a lot simpler, right? So that's the review of the platform, guys. This has been a huge improvement from the original Taxbit platform. Again, I want to emphasize my condolences in this case to the guys over at Taxbit. They have done so much in this case for the cryptocurrency space. They've made something so complex, so simple, and they've done it through a very clean user experience, and they're having massive growth this year. So I hope you guys will join the Taxbit family. There's a link down below in the description that'll help you streamline the process and actually save up to 10% no matter what plan you pick, and get started today with simplifying your taxes. That being said though, guys, let's go ahead and dive into this interview with Austin Woodward, who is one of the co-founders of Taxbit. Alrighty, everyone. So in today's sponsored interview, I'm sitting down with a good friend of mine who I've known as far back as 2018, and that is Austin Woodward, who is a part of Taxbit, one of our major sponsors here on the channel, and they're one of the best software platforms out there to help automate your taxes this cryptocurrency season. So Austin, thank you for making the time, man. I know a lot has been going on for you over the last year, and boy, has it been a ride, man.
Everyone's favorite topic, taxes. I'm back, guys. I'm happy to be back, Nicholas. Like always, huge fan of your show, and keep up the good work.
Well, Austin, I appreciate you making the time, man. I always kind of joke and stuff, like when I talk about the Taxbit team and the platform you guys have built, I'm like, man, they've made like one of my least favorite parts about the world of crypto, like very easy, very simple, and they're just a bunch of great guys. So, I mean, you guys honestly have been doing a lot of great things for the space. You've helped simplify what is probably one of the most complex financial industries for taxes. So I'm really excited to kind of dive not only into the platform, talk about your guys' journey and some of your big milestones you've hit, but I really want to start off by talking about the big changes this year. I know you guys are in direct contact with a lot of the people who are helping to shape these laws. So can you give us a little bit of an understanding as to what is different in 2019 versus 2018?
Absolutely. 2019 was a kind of a pivotal year for cryptocurrency taxes. You see the IRS sent out tens of thousands of audit letters. They issued new guidance in October. That was the first new set of guidance since 2014. And yeah, happy to just kind of summarize some of those biggest changes. Well, as far as the new guidance goes, the biggest change that resulted from that was they clarified different cost basis assignment methods. And I'm speaking in crazy terms here, but to simplify that, prior to this year, they've been kind of silent on what do you use when you go and you dispose of a cryptocurrency. Do you take the first one, first in, first out? Do you take the last one? Can you specifically identify? It was all up in the air. Well, everyone knew that first in, first out was the IRS's default method, and that one was safe. And that's what Taxbit facilitated for 2018 and prior. Well, beginning 2019, they clarified and they said, hey, we're now allowing an additional acceptable method called specific identification. As long as you can meet certain criteria, which our software meets on the back end, it all revolves around record keeping and transaction hashes. But to put this into kind of educational or like first grade terms, say I bought one Bitcoin for $10,000, and then I bought one Bitcoin for $20,000. And then a few weeks later, I sold one Bitcoin for $20,000. So which one of those first two Bitcoins can I pick? Do I have to choose the first one, which I bought for $10,000, which then I would have a $10,000 gain, $20,000 that I received, less the first one that was $10,000? Or can I pick the second one, which I bought for $20,000, and then I sold for $20,000, so I'd have zero gain? Well, the IRS now says, yes, you can specifically identify that you can choose that second lot. And that's exciting for crypto taxpayers. That actually minimizes the taxes that we pay. It basically front loads everything to make it more tax beneficial in earlier years. And then your lower cost basis lots, the ones that you're going to have the most gains on for all your hodlers out there that bought in the early days, you can kind of push those off until your ultimate acquisition or disposition of leaving crypto. And so that's good news. And that's one improvement that we've released to our software now, is users can go in and toggle between first in, first out or specific identification and see how that changes their tax answers. So that's exciting.
Awesome.
The
so
other,
to just
yeah, go ahead.
I just want to make sure I get that clear. So let's say, for example, just to put it in terms of like, let's say I owned a stock, for example. I had bought 100 shares of Apple back in the beginning of the year, and in somewhere during the mid part of the year, I bought a secondary pair. If I can prove, in a sense, through specific ID that I sold the second lot of those shares and not the first initial, and in that case, in crypto, everything again has hashes in this case through transactions. Yep. So that's what you're saying in that case, where we could choose the optimal one to sell.
Yep, exactly. And our software will go in and actually choose the optimal one for you. It's not very user beneficial to go in and have to select all 1,000 of your trades. And so we'll go and pick the one with the highest cost basis lot and then store all the blockchain hashes and transaction IDs on the back end in case IRS ever audits you. Then we have all of that record there. So that's good news for cryptocurrency taxpayers that came out of this guidance. Unfortunately, there was a set of bad news as well that we're fighting against and hoping that we get changed and help along with a bunch of industry proponents. And that is forks and airdrops. Those were deemed to be income at the time of receipt. And so involuntarily now, taxpayers can have an unreported income bill. If you received an airdrop or a fork unknowingly or even involuntarily, the fair value of that received coin is deemed to be income by the IRS. And so my thought there is, look, a taxpayer doesn't have control of when they get something airdropped to them. The value of it could tank drastically right afterwards. And so having to report that as income at that value when you don't even have that value anymore, a lot of these airdrops went to nothing, is just not a good answer. And so we've written a lot of articles on this topic, teamed up with a lot of law firms, and we're hoping that there's improvements on that front in the future. But right now, that is the way the IRS is looking at it.
Yeah, Austin, I know we had talked about that. I think it had just happened right when we were talking last in Las Vegas and stuff for World CryptoCon. And I basically brought to you, I'm like, it'd be as if like there was one exchange that, again, was probably like wash trading its volume and its price action, and it made the value of some random altcoin worth some set of value. And the thing is, what's the issue with blockchain networks is that they're permissionless in the sense that if I own a public address, someone can send me a token of some value, exactly, and I can't prevent them from sending it to me.
Exactly.
So now I have this token that has supposedly some dollar denominated value, and now I have a tax obligation. So I completely applaud you guys for actually pushing forward in that. It showcases you guys are trying to not only build great software, but push for proper policy on this crazy new industry that regulators are trying to keep up with. 100%.
Yeah, I am not affiliated, associated with the IRS. play by the rules that they assign, and we are taxpayer favorable. Our software is always trying to legally reduce the amount of taxes a cryptocurrency owner has to pay at all times. And then we're also proponents trying to, work with legislature to get better guidance and taxpayer favorable guidance when it makes sense, like this area right here.
Absolutely, man. Now, one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about a little bit in the sense of the platform. How does it actually work for like a user when they're browsing Taxbit? I know later on we'll actually showcase a little bit of the platform in another video, but I want to just kind of get give a brief overview for someone, as to what the process is like.
Yeah, totally. This is a good question. So our software is designed by CPAs, tax attorneys, and software developers. So what our goal was is take all the back-end complexity out of taxes, not to mention crypto taxes, which is even more complex, and provide a user with a front-end interface that anyone can understand. And so how it works is you can sign up on our Taxbit partnership page, and you'll be prompted to then start a free trial, and you can connect your exchange accounts. We API in with all the exchanges out there. If you don't see one for whatever reason, reach out to our support team. You've got live support available to you at all times, and we can add it. And those API keys allow us to pull in your transaction information on a view-only basis. We have no custody to your private keys, no visibility into those or access at all. And so we take security very seriously. All that we can see is your transactional information. That allows us to run it through the US tax code as it applies to cryptocurrency taxes, and then instantaneously populate a full audit trail for you, transaction by transaction, showing your different gains and losses, how everything was calculated, as well as produce your IRS 8949 tax forms at a click of a button. Those are the required set of tax forms that the IRS requires all cryptocurrency traders file each year. And so the software really, it can be a 10-minute process by the time you link everything and click to download your tax forms. Or if you're more curious and financial literate, a lot of people like to poke around and do other things in the software to help them tax plan and optimize for the future. So there's a lot of cool features on that front as well.
Yeah, also, I think honestly, utilizing the platform myself and stuff, the thing I love is that you've taken a process where someone would literally have to go by the books and understand basic taxing and accounting methods, or have to go to an attorney or CPA. But in this case, what you've done is basically just take it to where you, just like if anyone's, utilizing other services in the crypto space, you grab your API keys and they're view-only keys, so there's no worry about compromisation of trades. Literally plug them into the platform and a clean user experience. I know you guys just launched Taxbit. I don't know if it's Taxbit 2.0, but the new layout is so clean, even compared to last year where it was relatively simple to use. So I think it's awesome, man, that you guys have been improving the user experience. It still has maintained its simplicity, and you guys are always making sure on the back end, again, not putting that stress on the user, to have all the newest features and functionality.
I think you hit it right on. Taxbit V2 is a beautiful design, super intuitive, but most of the work behind that actually was back-end work that a user doesn't see. We take great pride in accuracy. Everything we do is immutable, has a full audit trail behind it. As we saw this last year, tens of thousands of crypto traders were audited by the IRS. And so we facilitated many hundreds of those. And so lots of CPAs, IRS investigators have gone through all the ticks and ties of our system, and we've been able to resolve a lot of those audits in the taxpayers' favor. And so that's what is important to us, is the actual numbers behind what a taxpayer is filing.
Absolutely, man. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about and congratulate you guys on was that you recently did a raise for Taxbit. I know on my end and stuff, I've been doing my own startup, so it's an absolute pain to do a raise, as you probably know. But I want to say that you guys have did an awesome raise with a lot of big names in the space. I know the Winklevoss twins as well are part of that raise. So if you want to spend some time to talk about that, man, I'd love to get a little bit more about the details. We were trying to talk about it back in Vegas, I know.
No, we raised just over $5 million from some of the best investors in fintech and cryptocurrency, Winklevoss Capital being among those, Peter Thiel's Valar Ventures, Global Founders Capital, TTV, Album Ventures, Collaborative Fund, Dragonfly, really big names that stick out in the cryptocurrency and fintech spaces. Why we did that was it's really important for us to build the best product out there that can really help our end users. And so the IRS, in addition to their recent guidance, they added a new question on every taxpayer's tax return. And it says, did you engage in virtual currency transactions during the year? 170 million US taxpayers now have to check yes or no to that question. Well, that really changed our industry and our market. Whereas before, a lot of crypto traders said, you'll never catch me, blockchain's hidden, immutable. The IRS is now making you attest to it. And if you check no, and they find you through some chain analysis software or blockchain record keeping tools that they have invested in, they can now prove intent, and it can become criminal and not just fines and penalties. And so we have seen a huge influx in the amount of cryptocurrency users voluntarily reporting their crypto trades. And that's led us to have to scale our platform and infrastructure to be able to handle this wave of adoption and also handle what's coming. Because as you and I both believe, this is just the beginning. These are the early days. And there's a lot of cool projects in the DeFi space and everything that's coming to market now that's going to create more tax implications and nightmares that need to be automated in order for blockchain and crypto to progress.
Absolutely, man. You were mentioning DeFi there for a second. I mean, you guys have a whole another handbasket to deal with there at Taxbit, because there's so many awesome like DeFi platforms, but then you have to be able to track your MetaMask wallet and its interactions with these. And what does a trade on Fulcrum mean? You know, and when I'm owning this token that says, you know, some altcoin with 3x, what does that mean? And, you know, so there's all kinds of interesting different types of things that you have to be cautious of. But I'm excited to see how you guys are going to be prepared for that DeFi movement. I'm excited to see that you guys are keeping on the cutting edge of it. So Austin, for people who want to get a little bit more knowledge on how they can go about actually utilizing the platform, if I'm correct on this, you guys offer it where you can plug in your tax forms, you know, and just test it out, and then after that you can actually pay for the plan if you guys want to go through and actually
100%. That's a change from last year. Last year it was a pay before you started connecting things. This year we've got a 14-day free trial. You can go and connect everything, not only connect everything, but see your tax calculations, see what your cumulative gains and losses are for any year going back all of time. And then you'll be prompted to end your trial if you are satisfied and would like to, you know, download those tax forms. And so it's a really good user experience. You can get a feel for everything. You can ask questions to our support team, who's always online answering questions. We want to make sure we're educating people and not just giving them numbers that they don't understand. That's important to us.
Awesome, man. Dude, I think the whole process of simplifying something that seems so complex will be really awesome for a lot of people out there. I'm glad to have you guys as a partner on the channel. And if you guys want to go ahead and actually test out the Taxbit platform, I'll leave a link down below in the description so you can learn more about not only Austin and the rest of the team, but also test out the platform for yourself. Start plugging in some of those APIs and seeing what you owe for the year, or possibly if you have any losses, again, being able to write that off and being able to push those tax obligations off if you make future profit as well, which can be great. And
you're right on.
Yeah.
We say taxes, but most of our users we've helped generate tax refunds, you know, and so our software will optimize that as much as possible, and you might increase your pocketbook by filing your taxes. So.
Yeah, man. That's what I always stress to people. A lot of people in 2018 or 2019, or maybe some of those out there who have, for example, experimented with trading and they made profit but then took losses. Again, make sure to claim your losses. That's a very key thing here. I think that speaks to the nature of what you're talking about, Austin. We want to make sure we can keep the obligations as low as possible and stuff, but at the same time, make sure we're following things by the books. But Austin, thank you, man, for making the time. It was a great conversation, and hope to see you soon, man, along the way in the crypto world.
Yep, for sure. We'll be in touch, Nicholas. Big fan, and love all your user base as well. So happy to help.
Thank you, man. It's a pleasure to have you here.